Welcome everyone to Altiori. This is going to be my review of Enola Holmes. Millie Bobby Brown, the girl from Stranger Things, plays Enola Holmes in this sort of spin-off adventure. You can see that it was produced by her and her older sister, Paige Brown. Now, there's one thing I have to say about this movie because a lot of people were talking about it and there was mixed reviews on both sides. A lot of people were saying that this movie was woke. A lot of people were saying that this movie was ultra feminist. And I've just got to say something. Yes, it is a feminist movie. However, it wasn't as bad as they were marketing it to be. I know Netflix has this habit of allowing people to put up certain descriptions of the movies or TV series that put off people altogether, when the movie is probably lightly about that or not at all. It was a fun kind of family type of adventure. Was it the greatest movie ever? No, it wasn't. And there were a few moments in the movie that was just like, okay, really? But you can kind of excuse it as much as it's distasteful because we identify with our current climate. You could understand it for the time why that was the case. I can also see the faults with people with that ideology of the time, but I can also see where they're coming from. Anyways, Enola is the star of the show. She is the younger sister of Sherlock Holmes and Mycroft Holmes. The mother was alone for most of the time because the father died when Enola was very young or before she was born. So it's just been the mother and her. Surely the mother had two sons that she could depend on, but for most of the time they were gone off doing their own thing. So she had to raise this kid by herself. In her mother's mind, the one who also played that crazy dark witch lady in Harry Potter, she was building a better future for her daughter, one where they could be free to be intellectuals without being putting down for being females, one where their voices matter and they could be anything they wanted to be. Their only inspiration didn't have to be just getting pregnant, getting knocked up by someone and being someone's wife. And having grown up a tomboy myself, I totally get that. I love men, trust me. I cannot do without that. I'm not afraid to admit it, and I'm also not overly obsessed by it. I was at one point, but you know, I've tapered down a little bit. But I'm not gonna be one of those people to be like, I don't need no man. Oh, well, technically, yeah, you don't need them to survive. You can be fine on your own. You have to learn to be fine on your own as an individual. However, I like them a lot. So I do like that they added in that Enola's mother didn't necessarily want her to be lonely. I like that they added in the potential romance between Enola and the guy that she hooked up with. She wanted to be her own person, but she wasn't all uppity like, yeah, I'm not going to give you credit for anything because you're a guy. I like that they did that. So it was very measured and it was fair, especially for the time. Now, some people were saying that this character is new. She was made in like the early 2000s. Sherlock Holmes has been around for a while, and now they're trying to feature her and everything. They're trying to make her look better than Sherlock Holmes. While there is some of that in this movie, that's not particularly what it is about. It's not about her upping Sherlock Holmes. At the end, because of their relationship, I think they added this in where the guy at the end was like, well, how did your sister figure this out before you did?
Need to look for it.
Second question. How did your sister get there before you?
I'm sorry?
The only reason she did is because she was in it. She was at the center of the very thing she was researching. The fact that Sherlock was able to figure that out without being in the thick of things, with dealing with other things, was pretty impressive. Just bear in mind, first of all, Enola is a kid, so cut her some slack. Second of all, she found all the clues, the tangible clues that led her to the answer. Sherlock just guessed it off the top of his head based on the little bit of information that he knew. So no, this girl isn't upping Sherlock. I think they put that in at the end and Sherlock was kind of pleased because that is his little sister. They are blood. I think in his mind, he was thinking, wow, my little sister's taken after me. What a girl. The thing is, Sherlock is not even most of the movie. It's not about that. It's not a competition. It's really about Enola trying to find her place in the world and following after her mom, because she and her mom had this love relationship, and it was a beautiful relationship, and she wanted to know what was going on with her mother. The only part I really hated was when that lady, the jujitsu lady, was like giving Sherlock this condescending lecture. And we're supposed to excuse it because for the time, but they laid it on a bit thick. Like this woman almost hated him just because he was born a man.
You never missed anything.
She needs to be home. She has a daughter that needs her.
Enola seems to be surviving perfectly well on her own. Enola is on her own path. And so, for better or worse, is Eudora.
Whatever mischief you two...
Mischief? A poor choice of word.
You can tell that somebody clearly hurt her. That part was very distasteful, and it just went on and on and on like they were trying to preach to someone. And Sherlock just sat there and took it.
You haven't any hope of understanding any of this. You do know that?
Educate me as to why.
Because you don't know what it is to be without power. Politics doesn't interest you. Why?
Because it's fatally boring.
Because you have no interest in changing a world that suits you so well.
And while she's not totally wrong, listen to the condescension in her voice. She all but insults Sherlock for being who he is and for following his own path. He wasn't unjust to women. He didn't do anything to them. It's not his fault he was born a male. But this is the thing people don't understand. If you want people to be on your side, don't try to educate them with bitterness. Ever heard the saying that you catch more flies with honey than you do vinegar? It means you can get more alliances by putting across your message in a nice and polite manner. You can still be passionate and firm and assertive in your standing, but being condescending, being bitter, the way this woman did it was not the way. I mean, I'm a woman, and even back in that time, I'd be like, ugh, your attitude freaking stinks, man. I don't even want to hear what you have to say because you're straight up bitter and just not very approachable at all. But of course, regular Sherlock, who would have walked out at this point in time, just sits there and listens because that's the point of this whole clip, for a man to be schooled on how misogynistic he is.
Yourself. No wife, no friends, just a strange occupation obsessed with footprints and coal dust. You see the world so closely, but do you see how it's changing? The reform bill is just the beginning.
If it passes.
I have to get back to work now, Mr. Holmes.
Don't know why she was mad. He has a point. If it passes. Maybe he didn't have to say that. But she was talking in a present tense, and he was trying to basically educate her and saying, yes, it will be if it passes. It hasn't yet. That sourpuss attitude put me off and made me dislike the character.
Customers to serve. Cakes to bake.
Like, ordinarily Sherlock would not do that, but whatever, it's this movie. Now, we look at Mycroft as being a very impudent and rather imperious individual, but I also understand where he's coming from. He actually does love his sister. Some people show it differently. Men are also very poised and taught not to be emotional. In his mind, because for the world that it was, it's true. If a woman wants to have kids, which a lot of the women then did, and they want to have a husband, somebody who's actually somebody of class, they have to kind of fish for the part. One of the things that always drove me crazy, and I may catch a lot of flack for this, are girls that condescend other girls for looking pretty or dressing themselves up. Of course, I don't like wearing a lot of makeup. That's not my shtick. But some women will shame other women just because they look good and take care of their bodies or whatever. And then on top of that, they'll shame men for being more attractive to women who do take care of their bodies. Hear me out for a second, because I've seen this. I've had friends that were like that in the past, and I've seen this all around the communities. You'll have these women who are trashy or slobby or morbidly overweight, and a lot of those people, because they have low self-esteem, will try to put down men for liking girls that are pretty, like it's the girl's fault that they're pretty, or the girl's fault that they just have the body that they have because they took care of it. Of course, if you let your body go, those pretty girls would look just like a lot of those people out there complaining, but they make better health choices. They're very conscious about what they're eating. They're more active. So they shame guys for being attracted to girls like that, and they come out about this, oh my god, look at what you're doing, eroticizing women. And they've forgotten that a lot of those women who are centralizing themselves are doing it because they want to do it. Anyway, they have a problem with that. However, if a guy that looks like them comes up to them, they will treat that guy like he's disgusting, and they will aspire to have a man that is so beautiful or so rich, above in that league that those pretty females are in. That's what they want. But they don't want that caliber of guy to be attracted to another woman who is on his caliber, which makes no sense. A lot of people, men included, make some really bad life choices and then try to blame it on everyone else. And then they realize that when it's too late, they're very unhappy and they can't change things overnight because of the decisions that they made leading up to that point. So I think it's important as a message, and Enola kind of teaches us that, to not be bitter about your circumstances. You want to be educated about them, but make yourself better, not bitter.
To have this world be your future. So I had to fight. You have to make some noise if you want to be heard.
The thing is that the mother didn't say is there is a way to be noisy. Yes, if you're noisy, you'll be heard, but you also don't want to be abhorred. So if you want to talk about wokeness, that's probably the extent of it that I've seen in this movie. The rest of it was actually quite delightful. It made me cry at the end because what I really took away from it is this mother who was an activist who was trying to make the world better for her daughter. Loved her so much that she was willing to put herself in danger and leave to avoid putting her daughter in danger, all for fighting for what she thought would be a better future. While in the back back of my mind, I'm thinking, did she kill her husband? I don't think she did. I'm just saying that was just like a fleeting thought. Because the thing is, Enola's mom was the kind of woman that could not be tamed, and the husband just drops dead, like, you know, weird. Mycroft is probably old enough to have seen many females who had not taken their life seriously, and so no one took them seriously, and then they ended up alone and in squalor. And he just didn't want that for his sister. Even though at this point she's a lady, she's still a minor, so when he yelled at her and basically scolded her and disciplined her, saying that you're under my care, you do as I say, he in this regard is technically her guardian or parent. He's responsible for her safety and for her being successful.
Let me out of this carriage. I will deny I'm your sister to whoever asks, and I will do it with pleasure.
You are my ward! And you will do as you are told!
So I didn't see him as a mean or evil character. I'm sure she probably felt that way, and honestly, if I was in that situation, I would feel that way too. There's a lot of times when my parents tried to discipline me with things I knew didn't make any sense. And when I grew up, I either made my own decisions, what I thought was best for me, or I recounted what my mother or father said, and I said, you know what? Now that I'm older, their advice was good. I'm glad they taught me that. This movie is also delightful because aside from the whole feminist thing, that's not the only thing you can take from it. What you can take from it is don't let society tell you what you have to be.
You have to go to school, Enola. But I don't want to go to a finishing school, Mycroft. Well, what else are we going to do with you? You're a girl!
Ultimately, you want to fit into society, to function in society. However, it doesn't mean that you have to be oppressed by it. The thing that comes closest to mind is school. I'm very artsy, and growing up, it was very odd that I couldn't draw a heart on my notes. It was mine. I get it. Everything had to be professional. First of all, one teacher was stupid because apparently she couldn't read cursive. I mean, what kind of freaking educator are you? You can't read cursive handwriting. In my country, that was a requirement when we were very, very little to learn how to read cursive and print and to learn how to write it. So it was very odd to me when I did my entire essay in cursive, which was the professional style back then, and to my horror, realizing that most Americans apparently can't even read it. Then I was told, oh, you have to do it over. Really, bro? Keep in mind, my family didn't have computers at the time. And the one computer that we did have, my dad was using it for taxes and whatnot. School, especially the American education system, taught everyone how to be drones. No one can be creative. No one can think outside the box. If your way is a better way of doing it than the teacher's way, and it gets the same result but faster, you're not allowed to do that. You'll fail the test if they don't see you doing it exactly the way they told you to do it. You were trained to listen and to not think for yourself, which I think is the reason why a lot of people are having issues today and are not functional adults. It's the reason why most people who are homeschooled usually are leagues farther in critical thinking and success than people who went to public schools or even many private schools. You can be your own person. You can be creative. You can think outside the box. You can be extraordinary. And you can also still learn how to function in society so that you can live in a world that functions that way. A little bit that Enola learned about being a lady at that school from that woman who really wanted to help her out. She really thought she was doing the right thing because she knows she's older than she is. She knows certain things Enola doesn't know. Enola, keep in mind, is still very young. What is she, like 13 in this movie? And the lady's like, one day you'll thank me.
Act, think, be as we tell you, and you'll become acceptable wives and responsible mothers. Do you know why I am an educator? It's because I want to make people happy. I want you to live a full and vibrant life. Not with anger and endless questions, but with answers. I prepare my girls for the world, for the real world.
And she wasn't wrong because regardless of what you want the future to be, you still have to learn how to exist in the world you're in now. You have to survive this world first before you can be a part of the future. She understands that Enola is still a little girl and her mind will change about a lot of things. Things that matter to her now probably won't matter to her when she's like 20. Trust me, I thought I knew what I wanted when I was 13, but I didn't. The people I thought I would want to marry or I thought I would want to be in love with or be in a relationship with, the things I thought I would want to do, I ended up doing something totally different. And I'm way more successful, I believe, now than I would have been if I had followed that very dribbling, monotonous, stale path the society was trying to pave for me. And that that was never a female power thing. That was a me thing. That was a personal accountability to myself for my own success and happiness. So it's good that they teach little kids this. I just hope that people don't take away from the message that men are ultra oppressive, because in today's society, that's not really the case. Kinda seems like the other way around right now, doesn't it? Enola likes the guy. He saved her once. She saved him. They work well as a pair together. And that's what it's all about. The movie wasn't bad. It really wasn't. Okay, so is it for you if you like Sherlock Holmes? No, not really. This is not a Sherlock Holmes movie. This is a young adult little spin-off movie about the sister of Sherlock Holmes and what she went through. Her name could have been freaking Barbie Benini, and it would have been well as its own movie. I really do think that the Sherlock Holmes name was attached to it and attached to the character just to sell the character easier. See, you like Sherlock Holmes? Here's the sister. If it was just another Nancy Drew thing in modern times, people wouldn't have been as interested, because now you have to work a character from the ground up, and that's hard. So just attach it to an already well-established character so everyone would want to watch it. I mean, the real reason why I even wanted to watch this in the first place is honestly because Sherlock Holmes was in it, and the way they made it seem as though he was going to be in a lot more of it, and he really wasn't. The movie would have done well if Mycroft and Sherlock Holmes weren't in there at all, or if Sherlock himself wasn't even in there. I could see where Mycroft would be integral to the parts of the story that we saw, but Sherlock, not really. But I guess they wanted to show his side and his soft side to his sister and whatnot. The Sherlock I know is not that sociable. So should you watch this movie if you have absolutely nothing else to watch? I guess, but it really is a movie that you can skip, to be honest. It's a cute, fun, civil movie, but it really isn't, I mean, especially the people on my channel, it's not really your thing. It's not one of those movies that you finish watching, you're like, God damn, this story slaps. No. It's not that at all. At parts, it's a little bit cringe. Not overly cringy, but it's just, think Hallmark and then put the Stranger Things girl in it. That's kind of what it was like. Adventure, mystery. Okay, so then after I watch this, I see things like this. The number of things Sherlock Holmes has failed to deduce about the world could fill a book. Notice how they italicized failed, because Sherlock Holmes failed. They want you to know that. They want that to be in your face. In fact, considering that his little-known sister Enola Holmes is, according to Nancy Springer's Apocrypha, significantly smarter and more worldly than he, perhaps the things Sherlock fails, again, to deduce could fill just as many books as the young adult author has penned on the fictional, brilliant young woman few people recognize. You see? And people would be asking, well, why didn't we know about Sherlock's sister? Well, one of the reasons is either she was really not that special, or second, she didn't exist. Regardless of the time period, if there were no major achievements, you're not gonna know about that person. And remember earlier I said that Enola Holmes wasn't even a character until like 2006 or something? It even says it right here. And at least the website Vulture decided to add this in. In the original 56 short stories and 4 novels written by Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes has only one sibling, an older brother, Mycroft, who appears only in the Greek Interpreter, the Bruce Partington Plans, and the Final Problem among the original stories. The idea that Sherlock and Mycroft have a younger sister, in this case Enola, a finishing school defector, budding detective in her own right who specializes in missing persons cases, is entirely the creation of Nancy Springer, who began publishing the Enola Holmes novels in 2006, starting with the case of the missing Marquess. Now, nothing is wrong with that if you want to make your own original character riding on the back of an already established character, let's face it, that's fine. What I don't agree with is them putting down the achievements of the original characters just so they can prop up this one. That to me spells severe entitlement. It's like those little kids when I was growing up, specifically little girls, that would see me playing with a whole bunch of the boys. Because I was a tomboy, I was usually the only girl playing with all the boys, because we would play some rough games like jumping down concrete flight of stairs, scaling up 8-foot walls. I mean, damn. Looking back at some of the shit that I did when I was younger, I was like, dude, I was a superhero. It was so fun. We would rough play, we'd wrestle, we do boxing match. I mean, it was so freaking fun. Then you had this random little girl, the adults were like, go ahead, let her play with you guys. It's like, really, bro? Like, I had to earn my stripes, you know, whatever. And the boys will just play with you. If you play like them and you don't cry for every little thing, it's fine. So we'd make our little games together. In comes this little girl who's like 4 or 5 years old. Oh, let me do it. Okay, you can choose and you be it first. We start running because it's like a tag hybrid game, and she would never catch us. Then she'd start crying and be like, I'm a girl, you have to let me, I'm a girl. And I'm like, I'm a girl too. No, we're not gonna let you win. Then she went crying to her mom, and then we tried to get in trouble. Thank goodness I spoke up then, and I was like, listen, we play rough. If she can't play rough and she's gonna cry all the time, she can't play with us. Then I got a lecture of how I should share and be caring and be motherly. silly, and we just took our time and walked off and went somewhere else to play where the little girl couldn't find us. Little bitch. I'm kidding, but if I knew that word back then, I would totally be saying that in my head. That kind of thing was annoying and made people not want to be around you. As a matter of fact, it makes you more forgettable when you do shit like that. Come to think of it, I only remembered that little twit because I was telling the story. The point of the matter is, I don't have a problem with Enola Holmes. I don't think it is, at least from what I could see in the Netflix movie, was like surprisingly woke and severe and putting down men. It's not that bad. That was the time period back then, so I can excuse that. But Enola Holmes herself, the characters, most of the characters except for the jujitsu teacher, were kind of normal and accepted that this was the climate they were living in, and hopefully there would be a better world in the future. Now we have a situation where people have been given an inch and took a whole mile, probably even several of them. And it makes me sad because it would make people, the forefathers, or even people who were okay with it before, start to feel like it probably was a bad idea to let that happen. That's something that you never want people to think of you. But anyways, that's my review for the movie. Those are my thoughts on the movie. What did you guys think about it if you saw it? Should you see it? I would pass. I mean, I only saw it because, let's face it, Henry Cavill was in there and it said Sherlock Holmes, and that's what they were banking on, that people would see Sherlock Holmes in it and be curious about this woman who also has the Holmes name attached to her. But I can honestly say every iteration of Sherlock Holmes I've seen, whether it be TV series or movies, this just doesn't compare. Like, those are far better movies. And I get that it's a different type of movie. This movie, maybe if they made it in the style of those movies, it would be okay. But if you want something better with a female lead character, something that is more on par with like Doctor Who based on the character or Sherlock, check out 2020 Dracula, the first season of the 2020 TV series or Netflix series called Dracula. That was amazing. Holy crap. We did a review of it on this channel, so you can check it out there. There might be spoilers, I don't remember. But that, ooh, when you can look at a character and you're not thinking, wow, she's a female and she's good. No, if you can say, wow, that's an amazing character regardless of whether or not they're male or female, that's how you know that the person has done a good job with that character. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.